Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Anthony Pate. We'll be discussing his fantastic book, Anthony's Return from Hell. Now, guys, keep in mind, this is the second book in a two-part series. Now, the first book, which is also out, of course, is called The Taco Shack Killer, both of which are available for purchase through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Apple, through the Kindle. I mean, pretty much wherever books are sold. So make sure you're checking into it and you're picking up copies of each of these fantastic narratives. You know, and I will say, Anthony was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best movers in the business. Book Launch International Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, do yourself a favor and contact Book Launch. You can find out more information on them at booklaunchintl.com. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Anthony, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we're very much looking forward to this. And as I stated, for me, as I'm sure so many of my listening audience can relate, this is really going to be something that we really need right now. I mean, the book is so timely given the circumstances of current day society. Embarking upon a journey of this magnitude is really something that we're all looking for. Now, I know we have so much information to cover, Anthony, but before we go into the book, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about you and your background, please.
Well, I am currently a forklift driver. I live in Arizona. I just moved here from Sacramento, actually. And I spend all my time writing my books and working. That's about it for me.
You know, Anthony, I reside now in Southern California, have been for the past 10 years. So you left the sunshine of California. Well, you were further north to Arizona. What caused the switch? Did you move there for work, or just always wanted to move to the desert? What caused the transition?
My family's out here. I left California Arizona in 2003 and went to California, and then California just got too dang expensive. Mm-hmm. So I ended up coming out here because it's a little bit cheaper.
Absolutely.
Plus my family was here.
Absolutely. Yeah, listen, Anthony, I've been here, as I stated, for the past decade. Man, I can absolutely attest to the cost of living being outrageous in California.
Yes,
it's ridiculous. You definitely pay for the weather, right? I mean, it's beautiful weather all year round. You know, Anthony, let me not get too sidetracked, man. Let's stay focused here. Thank you for sharing all of that. Without further ado, Anthony's Return from Hell. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
In the first book, The Taco Shack Killer, he ends up dying and going to hell for a bunch of murders he did. And then in the second book, he gets pulled out of hell. God gives him some superpowers, and he joins up with some of the people from the first book to save the world from a band of psychotic killers. One of them actually has superpowers also. So they fight throughout the whole movie, and my books all have happy endings. So he saves the world, or they save the world, because there's multiple people from the first book that help him. And one of the people from the first book becomes an FBI agent, and so that's kind of helpful. And another one's a computer geek who can figure out all the information type stuff that he needs to find the person, the people, I should say. And another one is join the army after the first book, so you can see how that would be helpful. And they all get together and fight the bad guys.
Let's go into inspiration. Now, before we go too in depth with it, just a curiosity for myself. Clearly, we can't help but notice that your main protagonist is named Anthony, the same as you. Now, I'm curious, is there any correlation there? Is this you putting yourself in your book, or did it just happen to work out that you share the same name with your protagonist?
Well, in the first book, in the Taco Shack Killer, a lot of it was written about the struggles I was having at work. So I left my name as the main character, not realizing that I was going to go and make myself a superhero in the second book until I was almost done. And then before I went to publishing, I forgot to change the name. So
there you have
it just worked out that way.
There you have it. Now, in addition, sticking with the same concept of inspiration, let's go a little further down. Of course, this is not the only book that you've written, as you've stated. This is the second book in a 2-part series, the first of which being the Taco Shack Killer. Anthony, I'm curious, have you always been really dedicated to writing? Have you always saw yourself as a writer? Is this something you always wanted to do? Talk to us about your inspiration to embark upon a creative journey and become a writer.
Well, it started when I was like 8. My brother and I were watching a movie, and I told him I didn't like the ending, and he was like, I'd like to see you write a screenplay. And so that's where it really started. But I never actually finished a book until the Taco Shack Killer, which came out last year. So that's kind of where I get my inspiration from. Also, if I find something in a movie that I liked, I can take it and change it to something that I would write. I get a lot of inspiration from life. Like I said, the first book was written about my troubles at work, which led into Anthony's return from hell. So, yeah.
There you have it. Guys, again, here in the line with Anthony Pate. We're discussing his fantastic book, Anthony's Return from Hell, available for purchase through Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Apple, and also Kindle. And make sure that when you're looking into that book, you go and you pick up the first one as well, The Taco Shack Killer. It's a 2-part series. Now, Anthony, as we continue on, talk to our listening audience about some of the research that you did in preparation for the book. Now, I know it's a fictional narrative, so a lot of it, I'm sure, is coming from imagination that you are creating right there in the moment. But even fictional narratives, a lot of times, research is being conducted to stay as accurate as possible with certain things, or even figuring out how to construct a narrative. Talk to our listening audience. What type of research did you do in preparation for this book?
Well, anytime I don't know about something, I Google it, and you know how that works. A bunch of websites come up, and I just read until I have a firm grasp on what I'm reading about. And I had to do that for the second book because I was trying to see what countries we were fighting on different fronts to bring that aspect into the book. So I have an actual enemy. But that's basically the only research I did for the book. The rest of it was just kind of off my head, out of my head.
And what would you say was a highlight for you in writing this book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you that you weren't expecting prior to embarking upon the journey.
I was really surprised that I didn't get too bad of writer's block. I mean, I got jammed up a couple of times, and I just took a couple of days off, and then I was back at it because of, taking time off, relaxing your brain from it when you're working on it so hard. It relaxes your brain, and then you can start functioning again. And and figure out the problem to the story. But that was kind of a cool highlight.
It's interesting how, listen, guys, when you are inspired, right, when you're motivated to do something, how much easier it becomes, right? I mean, it's not belabored work anymore, right? I mean, of course, as any writer can relate to, you're going to hit some roadblocks. You're going to hit some writer's block, right, where you kind of get stagnant for a bit. Not a problem whatsoever. Like Anthony said, took a quick break, got right back to it. But then the words just kind of spilled out from there. And I feel that is all devoted to passion and the interest that he brought to the project that he was working on. It's absolutely fantastic. You know, Anthony, I'm curious. So we have the first book, and of course now Anthony's Return from Hell in the second book. Are you planning, what's next for you? Are you planning a third or another book in the series, or going in an opposite direction entirely? Talk to us about what is on the horizon for you.
Well, I got about 54 pages into the third book of that series, and I needed a break from it. So I'll finish that one after I finish the book that I'm currently working on. But I went in a different direction with this book. Not too much killing. It's a love story about a guy who's 39 years old, and he lives out all his sexual fantasies with a hooker, and they fall in love.
Listen, man, these books are, again, they're a sci-fi, action-packed, classic story, as I stated, of good versus evil. But it is so apparent that a book of this magnitude is something that is taken directly out of a Hollywood film. I mean, I could easily see this on the big screen, either in television or in a film format. I'm curious, have you thought about that, or have you expressed any interest in potentially developing this into a screenplay and putting it in a different medium?
That would make me so excited. I wish I could figure out how to do that, how to get somebody's interest in the movie world, because seeing my name as the writer on a big screen, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. No, I agree, man. Superheroes are very popular nowadays, right? Of course, we've seen what Marvel has accomplished, and this is something that, of course, was going on way before that anyway, but it has really taken a very strong hold over pop culture. And this is something I think, again, right up the alley and perfect timing, because it can easily be depicted on the big screen and have so much value to offer. You know, Anthony, as we start to tie up this fantastic interview, being an artist myself, I love having this platform to be able to pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists out there listening in. And of course, in this instance, other writers listening in. Now, you're someone who, even though this is not something you've done your entire life, you've put out 2 books and you're currently working on the third that is going to be released shortly. So you are clearly an accomplished author, and you've been through the process of not only writing a book, but also getting the book published. And anybody that has been through that process understands that writing the book is only half the battle, right? Getting it published,
yes, it
is another animal all in itself, right? Anthony, any words of wisdom that you'd be able to relay to our listening audience, any new writer that's out there that's listening in right now, what words would you be able to relay to them?
Don't give up. Finish your book. Take a finished book to the publisher. It makes it so much easier to get it through, because the publishers, they get a lot of books that are, 3 or 4 chapters, and they want to know if they're going to get published or not before they finish it. But because I took the finished book to the publisher, I got right through. They could go right into publishing after they approved it. And also, read your book. Make sure you can understand it, because if you don't, the publisher's not going to understand it either. And then have somebody else read your book and give you notes. It helps so much to have an outsider's perspective on your book, and then take it to the publisher after all that.
This is something that we absolutely need right now, and I know myself, I absolutely need this right now. While we're still in varying forms of lockdown, let's take this opportunity to embark upon a fantastic journey. And remember, there's 2 books. So the first one is The Taco Shack Killer. The second one is Anthony's Return from Hell. And make sure you're checking into his Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and Kindle pages frequently, because as he stated, there is a 3rd book in this series that is still in creation, so it's not available for purchase yet. But make sure you're checking back in frequently, so as soon as it does become available, you can hop on that one and enjoy it as well. Anthony, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you for having me.